Hello. Hi, good evening, everyone. So, we have a very interesting live today, and I'll be just waiting for our guest to join. But in the meantime, I'll just introduce our guest today. So, she is Roxanne Gould, and she is an idol who defies age at the age of 62, and she doesn't look like 62 at all. She has been living by the ancient principles of ageless living, which are coming from macrobiotics and yoga. And this is quite interesting for me also because she's an American living by the Indian standards of maintaining herself, which is what I'm quite keen on, talking to her about. Okay, and so Roxanne is also a fashion model from Hollywood. She is from California and she's industry's first successful gray hair model. She has been the face of many international brands and has appeared on covers of variety of international Vogue magazines. She grew up at a time when smoothies started to become popular in the West, and so she's lived that way of life. And she, at very early age, she realized that food either makes you sick or makes you healthy. Roxanne is also a macrobiotic practitioner. She's educated in macrobiotics as well as in yoga, and she's been living by macrobiotic and yogic way of life, which has helped her prolong her modeling career. So I'll be looking forward to Roxanne, and we'll take our conversation. So I will just accept her request. Hi, Roxanne. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Deepti. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Yeah, same here. I'm so sorry. I just let you in a little later. I was just introducing you to the audience first before, we see you actually. And you
Yeah,
look great.
thank you. So do you.
Oh, thank you so much. So, we are really looking forward to know your journey because the kind of career that you belong to and the kind of place that you belong to, still living by these ancient principles, and specifically what interests most is that you've also been into yoga, trying to, defy age, living by these ancient principles of being ageless. So this is what our conversation is going to be all about. But before that, I would really want you to help us understand who you are before I take up my questions with you.
Absolutely. I wish we were actually in the same room together enjoying a cup of
Oh,
beverage.
I wish so. Yeah, maybe someday.
That would be nice. And I
Yeah.
have here my little rose lavender mist, so it smells very nice. I
Oh,
think
nice.
it's very important to nourish the senses. And I
Correct.
have a beautiful bouquet of flowers on my desk. So looking at beauty, smelling uplifting scents, is very important also, as well as diet.
Right.
What we have to nourish every one of our five senses.
Exactly.
What we listen to, what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we feel. And this is something that needs to be incorporated every day. And this is very conducive to being healthy. And more about me, to answer your
Mm-hmm.
question.
Yes.
We can get into that more. We have some time.
Yes.
Like you had mentioned, I had my mother was very important as far as introducing me to the importance of food. And when I was a young girl, she was one of the first mothers I knew who made smoothies, but not like
Mm-hmm.
the smoothies we have today. We're like, you
Okay.
just posted something with the antioxidants, the
Yes.
green
Yeah.
leaves. Yes,
Yes. Yes. I keep doing that. Yeah.
that is so wonderful with the B vitamins and protein powders. Now, back in the 70s, I don't know what my mother put in it, but it wasn't
Okay.
antioxidants.
Okay.
But
So I was
it
just
was,
anticipating what comes next with that post that you just saw. Yeah.
well, she gave me the concept that you could have, you could boost your nutrition. And
Okay.
she also made me appreciate food. Like she would take an artichoke and she would cut
Mm-hmm.
it in half, or a red cabbage, cut it in half and show me the design, and the
Okay.
beauty and the magnificence of food in
Wow.
just simply their design and how they're created. This gave
Mm-hmm.
me such an appreciation that eating foods that are too processed or man-made just starts to not be appetizing at all. So when
Exactly.
you develop this innate appreciation and gratitude for what nature provides for us,
Right.
then this is one way to be on the path towards health. You want to eat as naturally as possible.
Exactly. So I guess you come from the times when things were not very science backed, but more of an intuitive science where, the ancient people actually knew by their intuition that what is good for us and what is not good for us, right?
That's right. That's right. In California, that was kind of cutting edge back then, but it did.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
And I'm glad that I was exposed to it because it opened my mind to, I think it was Aristotle who said food is medicine and let medicine be the food.
Hippocrates. Yeah.
Hippocrates.
Yeah.
There you go. And it's so true.
Yeah.
And I tend to want to heal myself if I have an ailment with food rather first than going to a doctor. Mind you, doctors are wonderful and necessary and needed. But
Mm-hmm.
even my mother was like that. Let's see if we can just see what's in the kitchen to cure what ails you. And more times than not, that's what
Mm-hmm.
was needed to help with improving the health.
Right.
Ah,
Exactly. So no, but I must say, whatever you've learned, whether it was the intuitive way and not backed by science, and it all shows that you're who you are at this age right now. So, I mean, that's a big motivation for all of us that not always we should be looking at what science is coming up with. It's more of your own intuition coming up with you yourself knowing what foods are good for you and what are not good for you.
right. Listening to your body. What is it saying? If you eat a
Yes.
food and you have a reaction, like you might sneeze or you might
How
get
do you feel?
how you
Yes.
feel.
How do you
You
feel?
might get a quick
Exactly.
little headache, and sometimes people don't associate that quick little headache with something you just ingested. So I'd
Exactly.
like to point that out that when you do have these silly symptoms that just come and go, are fleeting, that you might not even, comment on to yourself. You just might think, oh, that's nothing. It's something. It's your body talking to yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Yes.
Roxanne, my first question to you would be, most women globally are totally unaware of the fact that each woman has the power of creating beauty from within herself. You don't actually need to go out and look for those maybe temporary solutions or the solutions which are more on the external side. And I must say, you are a living testimony of what we are trying to, kind of talk about, whether it be foods or yoga or lifestyle. So just tell us, what is your secret to being ageless and, how you have been living by it for years and years now. Also being into this kind of a career that you are in right now.
Yes, that's a really good question. It's so important to keep evolving, keep learning, keep understanding yourself. When your needs change as
Hmm.
you change, what you ate as a toddler is different from what you ate as a 20-year-old. It's different
That's
when
true.
you're different when you're a pregnant woman.
Hmm.
What you eat is different when you're an empty nester, and that's okay.
Hmm.
What worked then doesn't necessarily take you through your life. So it's a constant learning curve.
Yes.
It's not an arc where you get to the top and you think you know it all, and then when something
Hmm.
goes wrong, you try to scramble back up to the top of the arc. No, it's an incline. You're always evolving, and it's up to each and every one of us to understand what it is that our needs are at this moment, and it
Yes.
helps with an outlook on life, to be fresh, to understand, well, today's new, what do I need? Like the weather changes, so
Hmm.
today I need an umbrella. Today I need flip-flops and
Exactly.
not boots. So it's the same thing
Knowing
with
the energies, which energies are going on, whether within you or outside you.
right.
And
And
I'm so
this,
glad you brought in that point because I guess this is the same concept that Ayurveda also focuses upon that, whether it be age or season, as you are evolving, your body is evolving, your thoughts are evolving. Similarly, your foods should keep evolving. So what you ate maybe in your 20s and 30s may not suit you in your 50s and 60s. So you really have to see what works best for you at every, different phase of life.
that's right. And it takes
Yeah.
practice to hear
Yes,
what your body is saying,
that's
and
true.
it takes diligence and patience to learn your own language. It takes dedication. Actually, it is like a
This
life.
is what this is what I believe we are missing on to in these times. We are more listening to whatever comes our way rather than listening to our own selves.
Yes, yes, and to be
Yeah.
patient with yourself. You think
Mm.
you think something, but your body's saying something else. It's a matter of just releasing what you think you know and going deep within and listening what your body's saying. I can't emphasize that enough.
Mhm.
To It's kind of like getting rid of thoughts that you think are the absolute truth, and being more flexible with yourself. That's what self-care is about, to be flexible and loving yourself and accepting and embracing what you need that day, that moment.
But I'm loving the fact that, coming from this industry, like being into modeling industry and being into it since years, like when you were a kid, still being connected to your own self, because this industry can really take you off your own self. But you've been actually living this way of life, whether it be through a macrobiotic way of life or through yogic way of life, sticking to it, and that is what is showing on to you for sure, definitely. So Roxanne, and my next question is about your hair, because it is wonderful, and the more I read about you, I came to know more about you. And I believe you were the first gray model in your times to be taking that bold step of not coloring your hair, right?
I think one of the first, definitely.
One of the,
Yeah. Back.
So yeah. So how did you decide on to not being just yourself, and because hair is something that every woman is quite aware of, and we really don't want to, and even that one single strand doesn't look good to us, and we really want to color it out, or till the times whatever we can. So how did you adapt to this, and moreover, how did your modeling career adapt to this? Like, I mean, self adaptation still I understand, but somebody, and specifically from a modeling perspective, adapting somebody who doesn't want to color her hair, how did you decide onto that?
Well,
And also, what is your secret of this beautiful hair, even if it is gray, even if it is that age, but I guess it looks much more beautiful than many others who are struggling with hair health.
Thank you. Well, I think diet has something to do with hair, and I know you'd agree with me on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I do have a YouTube video explaining the whole transition. We don't have time for that now. I'll just highlight a few things of that story.
Sure.
And I decided to go gray at the expense of my career because I didn't want to pour chemicals on my head and pay for it every month. I thought that's just a ridiculous thing to do. I just, that didn't make sense to my ethics, being so health oriented and wanting to maintain my health, and yet pour toxic chemicals on my head.
I know, it's completely mismatch.
It was, and I was willing to give up my career because without health, what do you have? You don't have anything.
Wow, that's nice.
So at that time, there were no gray hair products there were no dyes, there were no shampoos. That today, if you go gray, your colorist can help blend it. So you don't have that skunk line, and back then that didn't exist. So I just turned my head upside down and chopped it off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was extreme, and it was liberating, and it was empowering, and it motivated and inspired many others to do the same. Of course, it grew back in a lot more healthy because it wasn't suffering from all the chemicals. And
This was back in which year?
Pardon?
This was back in which year?
This was back in the 90s.
90s, wow. And it was a bold step at that time, for sure.
Yes, it was a very bold step.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, my career is over. And yet, bless her heart, I had an agent who said, let's just take some pictures. Let's just test. Let's just see how you look on film. Let's just try. I thought she was going to waste my time. And all right, just to placate her, and all right, I will take a few pictures. And it absolutely catapulted my career. And I started to work more as a gray-haired model back then than I did nationally as a brunette, because brunettes, there were a dime a dozen. There were so many. This made me fall into a niche that was unique, and there were not many gray-haired models. So I was working quite a lot. And fortunately, I had the blessing of being at the right time, because we were starting to incorporate diversity and recognize the classic model. And clients, customers were saying to manufacturers, we want to see someone our own age reflected in the magazines or the catalogs. So that was really fortunate for me to have that timing. And I haven't stopped working since.
So I guess it was more of like, you were off that superficial way of all those looks, and people could actually relate to it. I guess that worked really well for you, because we look for reality, some kind of a connect with whomsoever, we come across, whether it be through media or through our personal relationships.
Well, it's not so superficial to women who dye their hair, and if they need to, that's what they need to do. I would just recommend henna, because it's not toxic, and it actually rebuilds the fabric of the hair, and it's healthy, and it covers gray. There's a
And I
tremendous.
love that fact also. It's again something that they're talking about, which is more of an Indian, way of taking care of your health.
You're right. I hadn't
Yeah.
put that together, but it is more East Indian. That's true.
Nice.
It's so wonderful. And if you want to dye your hair, there's a plethora of colors to choose from. And I understand if women want to do that. It's a self-identity thing. But
Right.
I'm speaking about the women that are on the fence and don't color their hair because they think they'll look old. Don't color their hair because they think their husbands won't love them. Don't color their hair because they feel they'll be rejected or they can't work. And that probably isn't true. It's so empowering. I have had men come up to me and kind of secretly say, you know what? I wish my wife would go gray like you, but I can't tell her that. I wish she would go gray. That's surprising. There was also a woman who did a test on one of these matchmaking apps, and she did 2 pictures of herself, one with her dark hair, one she made herself gray. She got more likes with the gray hair.
The gray one. Yeah.
Yes. You see, there's.
And I guess after listening to you, all of us would want to have gray hair because it just looks beautiful on you. So nice. Okay. So, Roxanne, my next question would be, so this is an appearance savvy world, and we know that, and specifically, again, coming from a career which is more ruled by the modeling world. So, and, the way we look at beauty in these today's times, it's more about, looking at the external ways of finding that beauty, maybe through slimming centers or going for spa or salon treatments, which is perfectly okay. But, we are just trying to get onto a different path of understanding how you could create that beauty from within, and specifically by the kind of diet. Also considering that you are a macrobiotic graduate, how did that add on to your, overall appearance in the long run, and how is it paying back to you now at this moment?
The macrobiotics helped me have an appreciation for food. Like I mentioned, my mother would show me the design of fresh food, and the appreciation of food is just as important as the diet. When you are preparing your food and you have an appreciation for the bounty and the glory of what's going to be on your plate, this kind of realigns your energy. This is uplifting energy, to be in a state of gratitude. And we need to eat every day. Why not make it an experience that is uplifting and joyful?
Exactly.
And
I like that word, uplifting energy, because I guess that is that if we start to understand that word, uplifting energy, it starts to reflect all over our body, mind, appearance, everywhere.
Everywhere, right.
Yes.
And I think that's also leads me into your mindset. Even outside of the kitchen, what is it that you tell yourself? How do you speak to your mind when you think nobody's listening? What is it that you are saying every day to yourself? And that is
self-connect.
Yeah, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is just something that we need to cultivate more self-awareness around. And this helps with internal beauty. If you are, for an example, if you're a person that walks into a room and there's 2 other people in there and they just had an argument, you would feel, but they're not saying anything, you would feel that tension in the room.
Energy, yes.
Right? You would also walk into a room and feel the energy of 2 people had just had the best joke and their sides were hurting from laughter.
That's right.
Say, oh my gosh, what happened? And you would smile too.
Right.
So yes, so you have an awareness already in you. And if we can cultivate that daily about ourselves, what it is that we're saying to ourselves, are we putting out anger or fear or jealousy or greed or anxiety? This tweaks your energy and does not
exactly
a beautiful person make.
So that is what, with the audience, like whatever lectures I keep delivering, I just keep saying one thing: your psychology someday becomes your physiology, which becomes your chemistry and your biology. So you really have to be very mindful of what goes on at the mind and emotional level.
Very mindful. And it's true. Science is now backing this up. It's just not metaphysical. It's physical.
Exactly.
And yes.
And again, this is a very deep-rooted yogic concept. Like, yoga considers the connecting bridge between the subtle and the physical is your hormones. And this is what exactly the science is backing onto right now, because if you're feeling good, automatically you're releasing those feel good hormones, and that bring about all those positive changes that we're talking about, whether it be radiance or health or feeling good. And similarly, negative emotions will end up creating all those cortisol and adrenaline rush and all that, which ultimately starts to show up everywhere. Your haggard look and tired, fatigued look.
And the best thing for creating those positive hormones, the serotonin, the dopamine, the oxytocin, is meditation. Did you know that?
Yes.
Meditation.
That is going to be my next question. That's going to be my next question, because you just got it right, because we've talked about macrobiotics, and I see you are a keen practitioner into yoga. And after studying yoga, I now realize that foods is secondary. The very first thing is body movement. I mean, those good foods also become poison in the body unless you have that right kind of movement in the body, right? So
well, there are three
and
pillars.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Please carry on. Please. Yeah. So my question is around yoga only, maybe. Yeah.
About yoga. The three pillars of health are diet, exercise, and sleep. And exercise for me has been yoga. When I was a young girl, 10 years old, I had a slight scoliosis problem, and I would have spasms and I wouldn't be able to move. And I learned that when I would stretch my back, I wouldn't have those spasms. So I was hooked. It not only did it help with the spasms as a young girl, but it helped correct the spine over the years, and the scoliosis is barely there. So, I'm a big believer of it. You don't need anything. You just need to do it. You could do it without anything. You don't need to pay for it. You don't need to go to a place. You don't need equipment to practice yoga. And I also liked that, especially being a model that would travel around the world. I could do it in any hotel room and keep my body fit, especially after long plane rides. So, it keeps the joints flexible. It strengthens your core. It helps with balance. So these are very important things, especially as you age, to keep those things as strong as possible. And I see people that are older without doing these yoga exercises, and their inflexibility could be cured by just practicing yoga.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's right. So Roxanne, just help us understand, you mentioned you have been practicing yoga since the age of 10 years, right?
Yes.
And that would be somewhere in 90s.
What year?
I mean,
70s.
That would be somewhere around 70s. Okay. And yoga in 70s in the West is something which was a very, very new concept, I believe. Maybe some specific yoga gurus who traveled from India to the West took yoga there, right? So how did you got exposed to yoga at that point in time?
For the life of me, I don't remember.
Oh,
I don't remember
nice.
how I found out about yoga. I just remember I was so excited about it. I wanted to teach my girlfriends. So I set up a place in our garage, and I charged them a dime, 10 cents. And, at 10 years old, most kids are as loose as cooked spaghetti. They didn't get it. They were a big deal. It's so easy. So, that was fine. I didn't teach them again, but I was so thrilled about it. And I don't remember how I got turned on to it. I really don't.
Okay.
Sorry.
So it's your self-practice. No, that's perfectly okay. Is it your self-practice that led you here where you are now, or in later years did you actually get on to the professional practice into yoga, or maybe a teacher's training, or some learning into yoga to reach where you are right now?
Oh, sure. I had the benefit of learning from the best in the world. Having lived 30 years in Boulder, Colorado, yoga was a big deal. And one of my teachers there who taught Ashtanga yoga, I practiced with him for about a decade. And then I went to many yoga retreats and practiced with other exceptional teachers. And I went to many, I've been to thousands of classes. When I would travel, if I had time, I would go to the class in town. And I've gotten to the point where I don't need to go to class anymore. And I am now starting to post some of these tricks that I know on my YouTube channel and Instagram.
I saw that, and it's amazing. These are like small little tidbit insights, which are just amazing, because small little things we really miss out. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it's all about alignment. And I know a lot of tricks, and I'm very happy to share it with people. I'm getting good comments because it's unusual things, tricks that that I'm sharing, not the common tricks.
Mhm.
And I don't know why they're not common because they're so important, but that's what I'm going to be doing
Exactly. So all
now,
these small little
especially.
things. So sorry, I would just want to mention, like, I have been not, very old into yoga, but it's been like 6, 7 years since I got into yoga. And for 6, 7 years, the practice had been really nice until recently. While doing a headstand, I just tend to injure my right shoulder, which is not a very big injury. It's a very small one, but everything was smooth. I mean, I just went into headstand, I came back, and for the whole day I was okay. And the evening, I just started to feel some spasms in the right shoulder. And then I realized, okay, something is not right. And then I realized, okay, maybe yoga. But I couldn't actually figure out because, when I was doing it, it was all perfect. When I came back, it was all perfect. So I still am not able to figure out what was that little gap that I missed onto, which ended up giving me that.
Are you very flexible? Do you have double jointed shoulders, double jointed joints?
Uh, I think I'm flexible to a good level. I mean, the other terminology, I'm sorry, I don't understand the double
Sometimes
shoulder and what.
joints have
Yeah.
sometimes joints can have so much range of motion that we go to the very end of that, and that's too
I don't
far.
think so
And
that
sometimes
was
you
the
need,
case. Normal. So
well, I
so
hope your shoulder
the
gets
whole point is
better
what
with
I'm.
some rest.
Yeah. So the whole point is what I want to talk about is that those small little tidbits that you're talking about, how important these are, because in yoga there could be some small little things that you may not be aware of. You may be doing a posture, but then if you're missing on to those small little pointers or tidbits, it might just end up giving you an injury, is what I just wanted to point out here.
That's so true.
Yeah. So
Yeah, especially
Roxanne,
with
we would really
double,
want. Sorry. So, you could just mention your YouTube channel also for the audience to just, maybe follow you or look at the tidbits that you keep sharing, because I guess I checked some of your tidbits and these were really nice. So, if anybody's interested, can just go on to your YouTube channel and just listen to those small little tips that you keep giving about yoga. Yeah. Okay. And
thank you.
also to add on, no, please carry on.
It's new, so there's not many yet, but more are coming as far as yoga videos. So thank you for mentioning it. So
So,
yeah,
yes,
some more
and
are
we look
coming.
forward to that for sure. And just to add on to this, you also mentioned that you're pursuing a program with Deepak Chopra in Ayurveda certification, right?
Yes,
So you'll be learning
yes,
Ayurveda
yes.
right now.
I've joined
So
the
it's I
Deepak.
guess it's high time you should come to India, visit India, and actually live the culture. You've studied and experienced everything. Now it's time to come back to India and actually experience where it all originates from.
I would love to go back to India. It's been decades since I've been there. I would love to go back.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've been to India?
I've been to, yes, I have. I've been to Goa 5 times.
Oh, nice. That's the place to be. And the other place, if you're a yoga freak, then the other place is Rishikesh for sure. That's the yoga hub, I guess, for globally.
I would love to go there. Definitely, definitely.
Perfect.
Maybe
So
one
let me
day.
know, because
Yeah.
Rishikesh trip is due for me also. Maybe someday I might see you there only.
Oh, we should go together. Let's do
Oh
that.
yes, for sure, for sure. Okay, so okay, Roxanne, I'll move on to my next question. Okay, so coming back to again your career, which is more from the glamour side of it, and you've been into this career glamour world since as long as you remember, which is majorly driven by again these external ways of taking care of ourselves. These maybe applying makeup or looking out for these solutions which can really make you look perfect. Again, going back to slimming centers or even Botox or surgery treatments if required at all. But the kind of lifestyle that you've maintained for yourself is very other side of it. So how have you managed to live this way, bringing the two worlds together, which are completely opposite in their own sense?
Yeah, how's that for karma?
I believe so, because you don't remember how did you got into yoga, and some maybe you have those seeds already sown in within you. So
Yes, I have been offered several campaigns for Botox, and
okay.
they paid extremely well, and I refused them because I am not going to have injectables. And I also recently turned down a hair campaign in Europe
Mm-hmm.
that also
Okay.
paid extremely well because they wanted to cut and dye my hair.
Okay.
So I think regardless of your career, it's essential to be true to your own ethics and morals. And that's the right path to be on, to be true to yourself. So I have these, golden nuggets flashing in front of my face, pick me, pick me. But it's, even though it seems like it's gold and wonderful, I know in the long run, I'd be compromising what's important to me. And life is too short for me to do that sort of thing. And I just am challenged with that regularly in being a model. Should I go get some Botox? Should I go, I'm
Mm-hmm.
always
I'm
thinking like
sure.
that. And I
I'm
said,
sure.
stop, that's not me, but it's in our faces as women to consider these procedures. And why is it when a woman turns, say, 30, 40 years old, she's just thinking that that's the next step? That's obvious. That's what
Exactly.
she has to do. And yet it's not. It's not written anywhere that that's an essential step to being a woman at a certain age, to go get injectables. That's a fallacy in my mind.
So I guess you've just picked that point, right? Because that is going to be my next question, and I guess that's a wave that's going on, at least in India, where we do see that a lot of women, as soon as they get into their late 30s and 40s, really want to get their maybe Botox done, or want to do something about their face, and getting into all those injectables that you're talking about, without realizing that late 30s and 40s is a time when perimenopause starts to set in. And then that brings about a lot of aging issues. If your lifestyle is not good, if your diet is not correct, do whatever, at the deep internal level, you are going to age way more faster. So that brings me to my next question. You are 62 right now, but I'm sure in your maybe, 30s and 40s, I'm sure you must have struggled with all these symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, which also bring about a lot of aging issues, as we just mentioned. So how could you manage to, again, be into this kind of a career, and still be able
Okay.
to maintain yourself while living through all these perimenopausal and menopausal years?
Before I answer that, I just want to comment that I read recently, if you have Botox on a regular basis, you need more each time to get the same effect.
Exactly. That's right.
And the expense that women go to. If it makes you happy, fine. But don't do it because you think you have to. That's not fine. If you're pleasing
Correct.
yourself, that's important. But if you're doing it to please what you think others want to do, I would consider,
Not
I
out of
would want you to
social pressure,
consider.
for sure.
So the menopause, I just want to jump back to the earlier days when I was a young woman, and some women suffered from PMS, the premenstrual
So I would just
syndrome.
want to correct you there. You are still as young as what you're trying to say. I mean, to us, you look that young only.
Oh, thank you.
No, that I mean, what we see is what I'm just saying. So yeah,
So
yeah.
when I
Please
was
carry on.
younger, and I had PMS pretty bad one night, and I remember I lost control of my emotions, and I cried, and I was crying, and I was crying, just unstoppably. And that's not a
Mm-hmm.
word. And I went to the mirror, and I was so shocked to see my face deformed from all the tears, the puffy eyes, the red bloating, it was just a shock. And I promised myself at that point never to let the PMS get the worst of me. And I
That's
did
nice.
some studying there. And I realized when
Okay.
you have too much salt, sugar, caffeine, and alcohol around that time of the month, it exacerbates the PMS symptoms. So I started to lessen the consumption of salt, sugar, caffeine, and alcohol, and the PMS was controllable. And I realized, why not do it every day? Why do I have to do it just once a month? And this again
Nice.
helped correct my feelings and emotions. And that's when I dove deep into macrobiotics. And I bet that helped with
Yes.
menopause. It was like for me, it was like a non-issue. I didn't have bad suffering of menopause. It was very, very simple, and I think diet had a lot to do with
Okay.
it.
So I was just about to come to that because you just mentioned that you started cutting down on sugar and salt and all these extreme kind of foods, which macrobiotic talks about really, strongly about, like, maintain the balance between yin and yang. Don't go to the extremes of extreme kind of foods. I guess that's where actually the secret to what we are trying to bring about lies there, like, being just in the center, in the balance, and automatically you can be really ageless just being in the center right there in everything that you do and think. Yeah.
And it's important
But
for men
that's a
too.
great,
You know, we're talking about menstruation,
yeah.
but men
Yes.
need to understand as well. They are just as affected by extreme foods, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, but thank you so much. I guess that's really a very good insight coming from somebody who's actually lived it very smoothly and normally. Because specifically in India, what I see as a part of my practice as well, a lot of women, I mean, I would not be surprised if it's like 1 out of 2 women having PCOD or PCOS in their early 20s and 30s. And as soon as you hit your maybe late 30s and 40s is the time, everything is starts to just go up and down. Like, PMS symptoms, as you've mentioned, just start to get so uncontrollable. And women just don't know what's happening to them. It's looking out for, again, those external solutions, maybe looking out for an external help, or looking out for medications. But it's really all being driven deeply from the inside and coming in from those simple things that we're doing on every day, every single day, the kind of choices and foods that we are making and the kind of thoughts that we are living with. So it's more of a mind shift again, as you mentioned, that can really help there, which is a good point. Thank you so much for raising that. So okay, and along with that, just also help us understand, like, you mentioned that you've been into yoga and practicing it for quite many years. Do you think yoga did had a great impact in terms of live help you live through all those menopausal and perimenopausal years and reach a stage now where things are again back to settled in a way for you, and still doesn't show up as age on you as a personality?
Yoga definitely has helped with the menopause in my life because it would bring down the nervous system, it calms the system, and it lessens the grip you have on life, so you're able to relax
That's
into the
right.
mood, into the moment, and to be more accepting of yourself. And it also it just creates a more balanced body. Like you were mentioning, balance is very
Yeah,
important. So definitely it
that's right.
helps in so many areas of life. I went through a divorce that was rather difficult, and I remember the yoga would help me just let the anger go and let my emotions try to keep balanced, and not go crazy. So it helps in so many areas of life that can be difficult, as well as
Yes.
helping moments of life that are happy. So it helps with the meditation part. I thoroughly enjoy that. With my
Mm-hmm.
studying in the Chopra certification, I'm now a primordial sound meditation instructor, and
Wow,
I'm now
that's
studying
nice.
about the Ayurveda part of
Mm-hmm.
coaching, and it all goes together. And again, it helps with the 3 pillars of health, which is diet, the exercise, and then when you exercise well,
Sleep.
sleep, which is the 3rd pillar. So you have
Right.
they all kind of go together.
No, no, that I agree to that, because only one area only is not, it's not going to give you all the results. It has to be, again, the balance that we're talking about. So that's where it lies. So
Yes.
Roxanne, my last question to you before we start taking up any questions that come from the listeners. Share with us some favorite macrobiotic or yogic practices that you have been consistent with all these years, which have really helped you be ageless and be who you are at this point in time.
I would love to share the favorite parts of macrobiotics
Mm-hmm.
and yoga. I do want to add, though, the term ageless. I am aging just like all of us, and I think it's okay to say that and admit that because it's natural. Everything grows and reaches their peak and then
Right.
decays, and that's a natural cycle in life. I think the only thing that's ageless is our spirit, our soul. And
That's true.
that's an important point because sometimes, like for instance, going back to school right now and me learning at 62, some people might think I'm too old to learn. That's different than, yes, I am getting older, but the spirit is ageless. So
Young,
the
it's
spirit can
ageless.
still learn new
Yes.
things.
Right.
But yes, my body is decaying. And I know one day I won't be here anymore. So these tips that you and I are discussing help the aging process so that you can live healthier and happier and
Exactly.
stronger and
All full of energy.
longer. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And now to answer your question,
Yes.
I think what I've taken away from macrobiotics over all these years, mind you, I have had many different diets. I've tried different diets. I've tried living on sprouts that I've sprouted. I've lived on
Okay.
the combination diet, the leaky gut diet, the elimination diet, so
Wow.
the vegan diet, the vegetarian diet. Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm just always trying to learn what's best for me, and especially at different phases of my life, like we were talking about.
Right.
And because your needs change as you evolve. And the one thing that I still love about macrobiotics after all these decades is to eat according to the season. Like, I don't want to have
That's
watermelon in the middle of winter. I want to have squash in winter. And why is that? That is what nature grows for us at that time. So you follow what nature is saying. You know, you have apples in the fall. You have melons and papayas in the heat season.
yes.
And, you know, when it's cold outside, you want those warming foods. And this is what macrobiotics is based on.
Energetics. Yes.
Energetics of the food, and also trying to eat locally, what's grown locally. For instance, if I fly up to Germany or Europe, I don't think I want to eat a tropical fruit.
So it's
I
it's
don't
a
think
crazy
that,
situation in India. I mean, like I come across a lot of people as a part of my practice as well. You know, the pantry is all full of all these international foods. Somebody traveled somewhere, got something from Thailand. Somebody traveled somewhere else, got something from there, and the pantry is all full of all these fancy foods, where the you know packets do mention these many carbs, proteins, fats, or whatever nutritional elements it does mention, but people actually don't realize it. It's all devoid of all that life force or prana or energy that we're talking about, which is at the back of everything that creates you. Rest all is all a superficial layer of what you call it calories, you call it proteins, fats, carbs, whatever, but it's what builds you, what your body builds onto on top of it is the energy. And I'm so glad you
yes,
brought in that point. Yeah.
good. Then you asked about favorite yoga
Yoga practices, yes.
postures.
Yes. Postures or
I like
practices,
to,
maybe, you know, morning practices or maybe some cleansing practices, because yoga is much more than those postures that we're talking about. And of course, meditation is a huge step to take when it comes to keeping yourself ageless. So, you know, when it comes to yoga, what kind of routine do you practice or like to follow to kind of flow through the day, rather, you know, not just about postures, but how do you flow through the day when it is about yoga? Like morning is all about cleansing and, you know, activating the body. Evenings is more about yin side of life, more relaxed phase of the day. And, you know, so how do you like to practice yoga? That really keeps your energy levels up. Let me put it across that way.
good question. And I'm not too strict on this because I think every day is different. And yet what I am implementing more and more after my morning meditation is this morning yoga, which is to just wake up the body. It's not too strict with a routine. It's just like, you know, moving the joints and circulating the hips and, you know, up and down on the toes, just to wake up the body. And it's
Right.
not what I would call a practice, because I don't have my mat out. I don't put on particular clothes. I just, you know, it's like the first thing in the morning. So I don't put too much thought into it. I just move my body, you know, arms overhead and lateral stretch and hip movements, and then rotating the knees and stretching the legs forward bends, just like that. Really simple.
And I'm
And
so
at the
glad
end
you
of the
brought in
day,
that
when I have,
point. Because a lot of people think yoga is about getting ready. You know, you really have to be pre-prepared before you start getting into that practice. Like, you know, your mat should be ready, your apparel should be ready, and then so it's not about that. It's about movement. You can do it anywhere, anytime, right?
Oh, I had so many classes that I would hurry to go relax.
Which is very important, I believe,
Crazy.
because it's not about movement. We are already doing a lot of movement. It's about right movement and then getting back into that mode where body learns to be in silence and being relaxed.
Which is so important at the end of the day, especially when we take in so much information and we're always on and stimulated. It's very nice to get into that yogic frame of mind where you turn off the world and you are on your mat. This is what I do. And I love the breathing that calms my system, and I love getting deep into poses. So I prefer Hatha yoga, which is the type of yoga, which I'm sure you know, but I'm telling for the listeners. The Hatha yoga is the one where you hold the poses. It's not the vinyasa, it's not the flow. You get into a pose and you hold it. I find that extremely calming for my Vata personality. It just brings me down a notch, and I find that extremely healing for my nervous system. And after I'll practice for 30, 40 minutes, I will feel rejuvenated and balanced and calm. And I like to do poses also that are opposite from what I seem to do a lot during the day, which we all do. We do a lot of forward bends on our computer, you know, driving, preparing food. It's just normal. We bend over forward the most. So I like to do the backward bends, the opening up of the chest. I like to do lateral bends. When do we do laterals? You know, the sideways.
We hardly do that.
We
hardly do that. Yeah. Yeah.
We hardly
not
do
even
that.
twists, not even twists, which are so important.
That actually is my favorite. Madhyastrasana, the seated spinal twist, because there's two things that I love about it. One is that it massages your internal organs.
Yes.
Like no other pose.
So when it comes about, you know, when it is about obesity and weight loss, I mean, that comes to me as an irony also. People are doing anything and everything when it comes to foods to lose weight or to get rid of obesity, except doing the simple practice of practicing twists every single day and really diligently to strengthen these systems, and automatically the body will get into its shape on its own. Yeah.
Fascinating. Maybe that's why I've been able to maintain my same weight all my life.
Along with all of the other reasons that you just mentioned, and specifically with the beautiful mind that you have. I guess that's the key, you know, where everything is being driven from, for sure. So I'm sorry,
Definitely.
I just stopped you there. Maybe you can just continue about, you were talking something about, you know, yoga practices. You can just help us understand it a little more.
Oh, I had one more thing to say about the spinal twist, why I like it so much, because it massages those internal organs, and also your arms and your legs are bent, which makes the blood flow a bit constricted through the veins and arteries. So it massages the heart to pump the blood, and then, which is healthful. Then when you get out of the pose, it's like the floodgates are open and the blood just flushes through your arms and legs. And I love that feeling.
That's amazing.
I just love getting all out. Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing feeling.
I'll talk of one very interesting experience. When I started doing yoga, and I was doing teachers training initially. And so, you know, the practice hours used to be like almost 2 to 3 hours on the weekends. So every Saturday and Sunday. And these 3 hours of practice was like a continuous practice. Like, you know, we used to start at 11 and we used to keep going and going till 2. And for me, I was not a very athletic kind of a person since the beginning. And when I got into yoga, I was maybe in my mid-30s. So for somebody who hasn't ever moved her body and starts to get into yoga with 2 to 3 hours of practice was like, it wasn't easy, frankly. And a lot of body took its own time to open up. And I remember those were the times, like, I used to have alcohol initially before I got into yoga and macrobiotics. And later my body didn't wanted it. Like, you know, my body started communicating and telling me, okay, you know, if you have it, you will not feel good. So gradually I gave up onto that. And when we used to go to our friend's place and they used to offer me alcohol, and they were not aware, like, you know, I've gradually gotten into giving up all of that. And those were the times when I was practicing 2 to 3 hours of yoga. And so they used to ask me, like, you just have it, you'll feel relaxed. And I used to in return tell them that, why don't you practice 2 to 3 hours of yoga continuously, and you will feel it takes you to the similar high what alcohol takes you to. So it's the similar feeling, but I'm getting it through yoga and you're getting it through alcohol.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Isn't
Yeah,
that an
yeah.
amazing discovery?
So it's like, it takes you to a state of just calm and peace and zero thinking, which alcohol also brings you to a place where, but it's a negative way of doing so, and yoga is a positive way of doing so. So that's what I realized, it's almost a similar feeling where, why not do yoga and get into, rather than getting into alcohol and all. So that was something very interesting realization for me that happened at that point in time. Yeah. Great, Roxanne.
That's an
I think I'm
amazing
done.
realization.
Yeah. So for somebody who's listening, would like to try it out, I would really recommend just see, and you will feel, what I'm trying to say here. But it's something like that, because your body just opens up to an extent where it's so liberating. It's, as you mentioned initially, it's just liberating. So
And to
okay.
have these practices, to do these practices for years, just not to try it and feel good and say, hey, I did it, but to make it your lifestyle. The benefits are tremendous. The benefits are life-changing, and for the better.
For the better. And you get addicted to it. It's the similar theory. Like, the day you don't do it, your body knows, something is missing there.
Right.
Great.
Good point.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Roxanne, I think I'm done with my questions, and it was really nice talking to you. No, okay, I have one last question, which was not planned, and it's like, random, that's just clicking to me. So what would be your advice to women who are still stuck into that vicious cycle of figuring out, what do I do about myself because I'm aging? What do I do about myself because, my energy levels are low, or my health has started to get to a level where nothing is working for me, and for me, medication or maybe, these external solutions is the only way out. Since you've lived on to the other side or other way of life, what would be your advice to such women, specifically from the perspective of starting to look at themselves and working on the inner side of it rather than the outer side of it?
I have a general answer to that question, yet I do want to point out that there are women that this isn't, what I'm going to say isn't, something for everybody. Every woman has their own needs, and sometimes they need help from other people. However, what I can say as a takeaway is, what you just mentioned can be just a lot of mind talk, negative mind talk, that just starts to wear a woman down to the point where she believes that is so real, and that is her reality, and there's no way out. Those feelings come up and they become very familiar, because this is what they say to themselves every day. So this is when you have, this is an acronym to remember, that when those feelings come up, you stop. S is for stop. T is to take 3 deep breaths. O is to observe your feelings, where it is that you're feeling these thoughts. And then P is to proceed.
Wow.
Now, I think everybody listening can do that. And there is tremendous power in the breath.
Yes. Tremendous power. I believe so. I mean, so, one example that I also keep giving to all my clients and listeners also, when it comes to health, we really have to see by how a newborn baby enters the world and how the baby starts his life, his or her life. It's the life starts with the breath, and then for a few months, the life is on to liquids, and then the solids are introduced, right? So the actual food is introduced. Similarly, so this is the sequence of life, how health can be maintained. First is breath, second is liquids, and then come the food. So don't invest your energies into foods, looking out for those best product miracles. It's everything starts with the breath, moves on to liquids, and then solids really, start to work within the way they should be working.
Yes, that's interesting. And it also ends with the breath. Yeah.
It also, exactly. Yes. So nice, but nice conversation, nice. Roxanne. Thank you so much. I guess we've really loved conversing with you, and really good, nice insights. I would really want to be in touch with you for various other sessions also. I have few ideas to be, talking to you about various other things, and also considering that you're a life coach and also pursuing the Ayurveda way of life. And I really wish to see you someday for sure, for your spirit and for your love for India for sure. And I see, you've been practicing a lot of Indian stuff in your lifetime, like, throughout your career and in personal life as well. So I think I'm done with my questions. I think we'll be live for another 5 minutes. If anybody has any questions, we'll just wait for the questions. In the meantime, Roxanne, up to you. Is there anything else that you would want to add on to help our listeners be on to an ageless way of living?
Laughter every day is so important.
Nice.
Laughter. There's healing benefits to laughter, right? Even physically, how it just massages the heart and the diaphragm as you're contracting and laughing spasms. So laughter is very important to try to cultivate every day. We didn't talk about that, but that's an important one. Again, it's an emotion. It's the releasing of those feel-good hormones that you can do yourself without any outside input.
Right. So I think I would really want to conclude everything by saying that who we are at the physical level or at the mind level starts with how do you perceive, yourself and the outside world, right? I mean, it starts with the mind, the way you look at things, the way you behave, or the way your emotions actually make you do things, and gradually it traverses to the physical layer, where everything just starts to show up in the form of whatever we are struggling with, whether it be hair health or skin health or body health or whatever. So, Roxanne, I think we have a few questions coming in from somebody.
Yes, I see the one about vitamins after 45. I'm not a doctor, and it's important to run these things by your doctor. And I can talk from my own personal experience that sometimes they just made me feel good taking them, and just knowing that I was taking them. When I would stop the multivitamins, I didn't feel any difference.
Changes.
I take vitamin C every day because I'm a big believer of vitamin C. And also the excess that accumulates in the body is urinated out. So there's no problem of overdosing with vitamin C. And I hope that answers that question. I think a balanced diet is enough, personally, for me. But please, if you need to talk to your doctor, do that.
No, but I agree to that, because that's what macrobiotics also teaches. The moment you start to understand the balance, then you don't need to get into this haywire ways of how many calories, how many proteins, this vitamin, this, that, and it's all about balance.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I think another question was about veganism. I do eat chicken. I was vegan, completely, but I changed to start to incorporate chicken because my body just looked at a chicken once and I thought, oh my gosh, I really want to eat that chicken.
So that feel good factor there.
Yes. And then I'll reach a point where I've had enough chicken and I'll be off it for a long time. I stay away from dairy products. I feel that clogs the system for me, and I notice more mucus, and I just don't feel like we're meant to eat a lot of it. But so I buy the vegan cheeses and the alternative milks like oat milk and almond milk. I think that's very cleaning for the system.
That's very nourishing.
So I stay away.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, it's nourishing, and I stay away from the dairy. I think that's clogging. And I will put my YouTube link.
Yes, please do that. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I can just do that in the comment section. But the YouTube is under Roxmod, ROXMOD, like my Instagram account. So you can find me there.
Yes. So it's ROXMOD, right? Or is it underscore there before that?
ROXMOD.
MOD.
Like
that's Instagram account. Yeah.
Yes, and you can find me there also on YouTube. Yeah.
Definitely. I have seen some of your videos and some of them still to check out, but amazing stuff that you're doing. And so okay, I guess we are done. Okay, are there any other questions? Let me just check what else. Okay. So yeah, I guess we're done with the questions. Roxanne, you could just mention your YouTube channel there if that's comfortable to you, or else I think you've just mentioned that verbally, so that should be good enough. Would you want to mention that in the comment section?
Okay, sure. It's just like my website and my
Okay, let me
YouTube.
do that for you.
And
It's
Instagram. It's
ROXMOD.
Roxmod.
Yeah, that's right? Perfect.
That's it.
Great. So, okay,
Thank you, Deepak. It's
perfect.
been
Thank you
such a
so much.
pleasure.
Thank you, Roxanne. It was really nice. Yeah, same here. Same here. Thank you so much. And it was such a, seeing you as a person who's more inclined towards the spiritual way of life and specifically the Indian way of life is something that's really connecting me to you in a very, very nice way. So I look forward to being connected with you. Thank you so much for being there.
I do too. And thank you all the viewers that joined. That was very nice
Yeah,
of you to
thank you
be
so
there.
much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.